thief among them. The sounds and scents of the human police outside the university were becoming more evident. They'd already set up a perimeter and were beginning to make their move to enter. Even from the fourth floor, Mara could hear the order given.
2 teams, 1 from the south entrance, 1 from the east. Maybe a minute. 2 tops.
Looking around the unlikely circle of human and unearthed creatures assembled in the partially destroyed lab, she decided not to say anything.
At least not yet.
They still had time, and it looked like they would need it, as the bizarre situation had taken a turn when Isaiah, Galinthia, and Fabian arrived almost immediately following Joseph and Chloe's escape. Mara tensed, remembering the moment she'd entered the lab to see Chloe shifting away, catching the young Medolian's eyes for only a second, filled with a raw disdain for their former teacher.
Chloe, it makes sense in every way.
Every lesson Mara ever taught the powerful dread-tinted Medolian was now a weapon to be used against her and the rest of the team. Chloe had been one of the most creative pupils Mara had ever taken on, able to manipulate Malos in ways Mara never dreamed. Her students' ever-present distress had manifested itself in destructive ways on many occasions over the centuries.
Scaring the Eve out of me, usually.
But Mara had always assumed there was ample time to complete her training before she grew beyond repair.
There should have been time. This shouldn't be happening. Why would she help Joseph? And what are they after?
She looked at Alex.
Or who?
Glancing around the rest of the circle, Mara couldn't help settling on Hannah, standing next to her. Her face, her hair, her hands, even the moth holes in her jacket were all exactly as Mara remembered. The belt buckle she'd found during Infurious,
though probably stole and refused to ever take off,
shined as brightly as the day it was brought home.
I'm impressed. Who knows what filth she's been living in?
But none of it lessened the shock of seeing her.
How did she even get caught up in this? What would have made General Hypocrite break her code of non-interference? Wait, never mind. I know.
Mara gave Isaiah, standing across from her, a hard glare. Next to him, Gale looked ready for war as her fingers danced along the knife handles lining her chest. Next to her, Fabian's famous neck vein was bulging, a thick, bluish-gray bastard that only showed up in times of exemplary stress. Isaiah took a glance around at the fallen shelves of artifacts, broken equipment, and dust settling. Instead of blaming Mara, as she expected, he smiled and clasped his hands.
Well, I'm happy to see you all safe and sound. Wouldn't believe the day I've had. My knees, they feel like hot butter. If I dropped down to beg for forgiveness, I'd just slide right into the wall. Bam! But seriously. I know what you mean, man,
Felix said, raising a fist of solidarity.
I can still smell her,
Galinthia said, with a flash of wrath.
Where is she? I'm gonna tear Chloe's throat out. Easy now. Our orders haven't changed, Isaiah said. We're here to make an arrest. That now includes our own dear Chloe. So, how much did we miss them by?
2 minutes, give or take, Hannah answered. Isaiah muttered nonsense curses as he hobbled over and shook her hand.
General, such an unexpected surprise.
Hannah eyed him with a dubious grin.
Bet it is. Here we go.
Isaiah laughed and sighed like they were friends meeting for coffee on an autumn afternoon.
How's retirement?
Boring, Hannah said, adding softly,
Suppose it was a coincidence Barker and Hunter landed at the Rose the same night as Felix and I.
Isaiah looked shocked beyond repair.
You were at the Rose that night? Felix too? Oh, yes. Doesn't he work there? What a wonderful coincidence. I'm glad you found my boys. Speaking of the Rose, how are the still rooms these days?
Less still than I remember.
Hannah gave him a pat on the back. Mara had gotten sick of Isaiah and Hannah's friendship and its secret language centuries ago. Bennett spoke up, looking disgruntled as usual. Where you been, man? We've been dealing with some sorry shit. Isaiah's chin dropped in shame.
I know. I was getting to you next. It seems like I hung you fellas out to dry, but...
Seems? Seems? You've done it twice now,
Alex shouted, his chest releasing a blast of smoke. Your word doesn't mean shit from here on out. You hear me? Bennett's nostrils flared. Isaiah stumbled through a few excuses, starting and stopping so many times even Mara could tell how sorry he was.
Things didn't go exactly as I'd planned, okay? But I was keeping an eye on you the whole time. I trusted you. And now look at the both of you. Eve's as strong as any unearthed humans. Maybe even stronger.
The human authorities were on the second floor, headed for the stairs. Mara could sense apprehension among them. Some were giving off fervor, illuminating a deep passion for their work.
Honest cops. My least favorite to deal with.
It wouldn't be long until they were kicking the door in. Meanwhile, Isaiah looked as calm as a water lily.
I know he senses them too. Human authorities on the way. Best get a move on,
Mara said. Isaiah gave a slight nod and made his way back to his starting position in the circle, both hands on his cane in front, looking like an old sage, before coughing twice into his grimy glove.
So, anybody heard any good jokes lately?
As usual, Mara's boss managed to disgust her within a few moments of his arrival, though he did manage to get a laugh out of Felix.
Did you even hear what I said?
She asked.
Sure did. Just thought the mood could use a little lightening. That's all. But yes, you're right. Everything is awful. That's why we're here, isn't it?
Isaiah said dryly.
We have no idea why you're here,
Mara said.
You haven't told us.
True,
he agreed.
Let's do it then. And the last 2 days, I traveled from Earth to Eros, then to Highwind, and finally to Trivium, seeking answers. Sad to say, I didn't learn as much as I wanted to, and what I did learn is just dreadful. But how about you all? Anything good? Mara?
Every pair of eyes fell on her.
Please stop.
She hated more than one pair at a time.
I felt a mess of wrath and rapture converging and traveled to the site to investigate, she said. We're on high alert, after all. So, you didn't know I was going to be here?
Hannah asked Mara with a self-assured grin.
You cocky little...
Mara knew the words were designed to get under her skin, and replied bitterly.
No. If I had, I wouldn't have bothered. I know the great Highwind General neither desires nor requires aid, so... Here we go, fervor rage,
Hannah said.
There's no such thing,
Mara shouted.
Whatever you say,
Hannah added smugly before turning away.
Isaiah, what is this dreadful news?
In a minute.
he said, rubbing his dirt-crusted beard.
First, what's this strange signal I'm getting in here? It's bitter. Like black licorice. Something I don't like the taste of.
Pretty sure it's the stones, Hannah said.
Or Joseph,
Felix added. Isaiah's gaze turned down as he went quiet a moment, before muttering gravely.
The abyss.
Mara stepped into the circle to interrupt. We're not entertaining this, are we? The notions of humans soaking rocks in Eve? The demon is smart enough to know better. As are we, yes? The sigh Isaiah released seemed to bring a dark cloud over the circle.
Is it so hard to imagine? Each of us Medolians has an earthly object imbued with Malos. Who says humanity, a major source of Eve, would not be able to do the same? Sadly, not only do we need to entertain the notion of the Gehenna stones, we need to wholly embrace the fact that our destinies are about to be decided by the actions of humans from more than 4 celestial lifetimes ago. From what I've seen, the brothers contain more destructive force than the beast of Eros itself.
Mara laughed at the absurdity of the statement, and yet Isaiah's wrinkled, jubilee-laden face looked as somber as it ever had. What did you see? She asked.
I went to the Cirrus,
he said. You what? Galinthia shouted, following it with a heated groan.
Now I really don't feel bad for going behind your back.
Mara tried to contain her disdain and sound as professional and direct as possible. You know better than anyone we can't trust her predictions. I warned you of that 6 months ago, when you first went to her for help in selecting the humans to be imbued. You told me you were only looking for memories. Isaiah's head was still aimed shamefully low, as though determined to go through as much of it as possible.
It's true. Only her visions of the past are fact. She sees glimpses of possible outcomes floating in the ether, waiting to be set in stone. But her forecasts have gotten so strong, I can only hope she's wrong this time.
What sort of glimpses? The smaller human, Alex, asked. He'd healed well, and his wrath was leagues away from the weak-willed man Mara had seen at the gathering.
But that's exactly what I'm worried about.
Since learning what was living within Alex Barker, she'd felt only regret for the day she'd saved him and Hunter from the Raytheons.
I'm sorry?
Isaiah asked Alex, looking doltish. You went to a woman who can see the future? The night we died, you told me that was impossible. The teacher's wrath leapt up a level. It is, kid. Don't listen to the old kook, Galinthia assured him. Alex pressed on. No, really. What are you saying? I'm with Al. Keep going, Bennett said. Isaiah put up his hands defensively, amazing Mara with his patience, considering the humans' attitudes.
Easy does it, fellas. The Cirrus's visions of the future are like a Plinko machine. That ball can end up anywhere. The reason I'm so scared this time is that every slot at the bottom is filled with some sort of horrific despair.
What did you see 6 months ago? Alex asked again. Isaiah approached him like a stray dog.
Al, we don't have time to...
My name is Alex. Alex James Barker, the human snapped, stopping Isaiah in place. As far as the world knows, I died on September 20th, 2006, leaving 1 widow and 1 fatherless child. I would like to know what you knew. Please. Mara wondered if Isaiah would tell them the full truth, even with her own bitter personal feelings for the humans.
And their species as a whole.
She thought they deserved to know why they were chosen and what had really happened to them. Now was not the time, however.
Alex, I'm sorry. You deserve the truth. And I know what you're getting at. But I didn't know how that night was going to turn out,
Isaiah answered.
Then why were you following me for so long?
Alex pressed.
It wasn't just you. I only knew 2 people would die in Prescott sometime soon, on the same night. The timing was too perfect not to utilize. I had no clue who it would be.
Occasionally he lies well.
The humans looked skeptical, but said nothing.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you, and I hope you believe that,
Isaiah continued.
But I've seen Joseph and Chloe's plan. If they get all 3 stones, everything will be over before any of us has a chance to care.
Galinthia scoffed.
What is that dramatic nonsense supposed to mean?
Mara's senses were going off. The human police had reached their floor and were making their way down the hall, whispering between them.
Maybe 10 seconds to go.
She caught eyes with Isaiah, who nodded in silent agreement.
I'll answer that, Gale, he said. But first, I suggest we adjourn this meeting to a different location before we're arrested. Now, hold on. As usual, I don't want to lose anybody.
Isaiah drew up his emerald-topped cane and created a massive Eve gate, which collected the entire group before any could protest. The shift spit the group out onto a wide wooden dock in the dead of night, beside a looming long-haul cargo ship. The port was the color of rust, engulfed in a mist so thick you could only see a dozen or so yards in any direction, and all distant sources of light were turned to puffy orbs. Other than a horn blowing in the fog-filled emptiness out at sea, there were no signs of life anywhere. Mara laughed to herself on arrival, seeing how the humans reacted to the shifts. Especially Bennett, a man who so clearly cared what others thought, now green in the face.
Ah, that's better,
Isaiah said, taking a glance around the desolate area.
Now!
He stabbed his cane into the dock and created a mallow sphere.
Let's get down to it.
The hovering sphere was translucent, similar to a soap bubble, with images superimposed across its face. Fuzzy glimpses of what he had seen in the Sirius's memory potion. Isaiah in the images told the tale of Joseph and Chloe and their quest to halt existence by starting a chain reaction that would destroy everything, down to the last atom. All of which Mara took with an entire handful of salt.
The universe is a big place. Doubt anything could truly destroy it.
Her boss then explained that Joseph was incapable of harnessing the stone's true power until they were united. But by siphoning off what was essentially residue, he could potentially become more powerful than anyone present. Again, Mara was skeptical.
If he already has the first 2 brothers, and has access to the only person who knows where the third is, then what's the point? Once we feel anything, it'll be too late, right?
Galinthia asked sardonically.
Hey, yeah. If he'd collected all 3, the skies should be turning black and freaking out,
Felix said.
The sky is black,
Galinthia responded.
You know what I mean.
Off to the side, Alex cleared his throat.
About that.
All eyes turned on him as he reached into his pants' cargo pocket, and revealed the smallest of the Gehenna stones. Like a black, oblong baseball in his hand, it shimmered, as though freshly polished. With a slight, guilt-ridden shrug, he chuckled. Joseph doesn't have all three. Many in the circle on the dock seemed speechless, though Mara didn't have the faintest clue why. That was in your pocket this whole time? Bennett shouted. You took it off him? When? Hannah asked, sounding more concerned than excited. Alex stared intently at the stone. Just before Joseph threw me out the window, I think. He was talking. Distracted. Guess I forgot about it when I died again. Sorry. There's been a lot going on. Good for you! We've got one! Crisis averted! Felix said, raising a high five to the others around him, which none returned.
Idiot.
You're telling me that's it? That's supposed to be a Gehenna stone? Mara said, gawking at the thing. She could barely sense any Eve from it. Whatever you found, it's a trick. There's no temple. Trust me. I've looked. There's no such thing as the brothers. Touch it, Hannah said. Mara was a little stunned by the suggestion. What? You want to know if it's the real deal? Go for it. Hannah pushed. What's there to be afraid of? All eyes were on Mara once again.
Fine.
Nothing she'd ever experienced had made her believe a rock could hold so much power. Even to her, a creature with powers beyond human comprehension, it seemed impossible. Right up until the moment she held out her hand. The rock touched her skin, and a staggering, empty feeling took over, turning her insides out and outside in. Her veins were filled with ice-cold blood pumping from her palm down her arm, up into her heart, stinging like microscopic needles passing through its chambers. Her breath was cut off. She couldn't feel the Eve, or the ground beneath her feet, or warmth, or sound. She was banished from all sensation, save the poison in her veins. Mara shot backward, dropping the stone without ever truly holding it, where it hit the ground, and the magenta streaks within it stilled.
No, it can't be.
She couldn't believe what she'd just felt, let alone articulate it. There was then a hand on her lower back, Hannah's, helping her find balance. You okay? The Celestial asked. Mara nodded, collecting herself. Galinthia raised a perplexed eyebrow. Guess it's real. Makes sense, in a messed up kind of way, Fabian said. If people were able to imbue unique rocks with their darkest shades of Eve, and really filled those suckers, yeah, I can see it. I mean, you all don't spend much time with the humans, but I see all their information through my phone's web feature. And let me tell you, they are a fucked up people. No telling how low they can go. There was this one video titled Hatchet vs. Genitals, and... Thank you, Fabian. We believe you, Isaiah said. Hannah approached the stone, her hand encased in a blue shield, and picked it up. You should hold on to this. Wincing from its touch, she placed the stone in Isaiah's fingerless gloved hand. He reacted like somebody handed him a hot potato, rather than a rock filled with damnation. Yikes! He tossed it into his coat pocket and blew on his fingers. Whoa! That is just hideous. Well done, Mr. Barker. It seems we have one advantage after all.
The question now is what to do with it.
To answer, Mara had to stop her body from shivering and lips from quaking. The stones are part of the case, evidence, as well as motive. This one goes right to the tribunal. We need a new mandate drawn up, one that authorizes drastic action to stop Joseph, preferably without human interference. She didn't bother checking to see if she'd offended Alex or Bennett.
If it weren't for Al and me, you wouldn't even have that stone, you ungrateful D&D warlock wannabe.
Bennett shot back. Mara narrowly resisted the urge to take his head off with her lance. Joseph also never would have gotten the second stone, nor snapped your friend's neck, if not for you. Alex hung his head. She could feel his guilt, mostly grief, mixed with a little dread and rapture.
Good. You deserve it, little bastard.
Excuse me, Isaiah, Hannah said, her voice absorbing all the tension in the room. But what about Highwind? Can they offer any assistance? Being the majority leader in the Senate, they should be able to do something. Maybe even send Barker and Hunter back home.
I've already gone to see Gabriel and the Magnus Council,
Isaiah answered.
They turned me away and denounced all our findings. Even had the nerve to laugh at me when I hadn't even told them a joke. Of course, a Celestial wouldn't know a good joke if it took a hot shit on their lawn. No, I think we're on our own. And Mara may be right. The only thing that will convince them is to show them the stone. If Ileana's prediction is correct, we need every soldier both sides can spare to find this guy before it's too late.
Isaiah then spoke to Alex and Bennett.
Sorry, fellas. As of now, we still need you. Gotta make sure the covenant is upheld.
Bennett grunted and shrugged. Alex waved it away, as though carefree, but clearly not. We're used to being pawns by now. A look of remorse crossed Isaiah's face.
I showed you what the Cirrus showed me. This is an all-hands-on-deck situation.
Mara sighed. As your second in command, I protest. We're already dealing with one outside agent. More boots on the ground could just mean more spies and co-conspirators.
Noted. But I trust people to do the right thing,
Isaiah said, far too cheerful for her liking.
Whatever. I tried.
Guess the first thing to do is lock the stone away,
Fabian suggested.
Make sure Joseph can never find it. Boom! No mass extinction.
Mara jumped in. As I said, we are taking it to the tribunal. The comments started a rousing chorus among the circle. Arguments abounded. Hannah then spoke loudly enough to silence them all. Hey! She let the silence settle. Why is it that the three youngest people here by thousands of years are behaving the most like adults? The circle stayed quiet. Heads and eyes were lowered. They've been put through hell, literally, because of people like us. Maybe it's time we let them have a say in what happens to them and their planet. Isaiah took a deep breath.
You're right, Hannah, as usual. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know your name, young lady.
All eyes turned on the short human with thick-rimmed glasses, who, until now, had been silent. My name is Casey, she said. Hannah gave an approving nod and grin. Casey's the one who got us here. She's been a major help.
In that case, we owe you a drink and a song,
Isaiah said.
And Alex, Thank you for being our guiding star, spurring us onward. We've been in need of it. Bennett, being a military man with experience in stratagem, I would like your thoughts on how we proceed.
The humans shared a glance before Bennett took point.
Sure. At the moment, we have one stone, and we know Joseph is going after the third. So let's use that. Send one team to head him off, and another can follow Mara's suggestion and get the stone we have to the tribunal. I've never been there. I don't know what the hell it is, but I doubt Joseph would attack your senate to get the rock, unless he's got an army at his disposal or something.
Mara didn't hate the plan.
Provided Joseph still thinks the Barium Guard is on duty guarding the tribunal. If he calls that bluff...
But we can't send a team after Joseph and Chloe if we don't know where they went,
Fabian interjected.
I think I know where they went,
Casey said, getting louder and more forceful with every spoken word. Mara was finding herself liking her.
Great! Thank you! Where is it?
Isaiah's face was as bright as a Bobon's ass.
They're a large monkey creature of a sort, the dominant species on Lanwin.
Casey considered it before answering.
I'm not saying, unless you promise I can go with you. I don't think it's a good idea, you being a part of this,
Alex said, with affection if Mara didn't know better.
We already lost you once. Stop being so dramatic! I died for like 5 seconds.
Casey addressed the circle.
The human with Joseph is my boss, Lee. I think I'm the closest thing she has to a friend, so she's my responsibility. She and I found Gehenna, and the stones. I'm sorry it's caused so much trouble, but I saw her face. She's scared. I've never seen her like that. I'm just here to make sure she gets home okay. The end of the world stuff is all yours.
Come on! There's plenty of humans involved in this thing already,
Felix said to Isaiah.
Why not add one more?
Mara wanted to throw in her 2 cents, but, judging by the look in her commander's eyes, figured it was pointless.
The guy just can't say no to humans.
Isaiah laughed.
Guess the 9 of us are the only thing standing in between Joseph and the apparent ruination of everything. We should start calling ourselves the Short Straws, like a band name.
No one laughed.
Very well. We'll go with Bennett's plan. Even though we have no outside support, and it might very well violate dozens of unearthed statutes.
The head Medolian continued with the orders. Mara was to lead Galinthia, Fabian, Alex, and Miss Casey in finding the third stone, and, hopefully, nabbing it before Joseph could. Hannah, Felix, Bennett, and Isaiah were to travel to Trivium and deliver the stone Alex stole from Joseph. At least one human would need to be present for them to make their case.
Whatever you say, boss. But can they even get to Trivium without,
Galinthia made an explosion sound, motioning at Bennett. Isaiah's jaw hung loose for a moment.
I believe they can. Yes, I'm almost sure of it. They have concentrated Eve within them, and their bodies haven't fallen apart yet. They should be able to squeeze into that part of Unearth, just no farther.
Isaiah put a hand on Bennett's shoulder.
You'll just have to trust me. The good news is, you're about to be the first human to travel to yet another level of reality.
Bennett grunted and walked away. The group began splitting into teams, preparing for what lay ahead, and Mara noticed Galinthia and Fabian settling into a conversation with Casey, whom Mara was finding rather impressive for a human.
She somehow managed to earn even Hannah's trust. Must be a reason why.
When an opening to speak with Isaiah came, Mara took it, sidestepping the others, saying quietly, "I need a word."
Sounds important.
It is.
Then, after you.
Isaiah excused them for a brief moment, and they found a secluded spot on the other side of a withered cargo shack. Mara leaned her staff against the rotted wood wall and drew back her hood with cyan highlights, taking a moment to look at the stars. "I have something to tell you. You're not going to like it."
That you went to Trivium?
She was only shocked for a moment. "How?"
Figured that's the only reason you'd mask your energy. I knew the Medolian ban wouldn't work on you. Is this all you wanted to tell me?
Isaiah asked. "You never thought I was the one working with Joseph? Not even for a second?"
Just 'cause I know how much you dislike me doesn't mean I think you'd ever turn on us. Nothing's more important to you than the job. I'll always trust you to be you, and to keep me honest.
He finished with a dopey grin. "Would you have let me go if I'd asked?"
Probably not.
It was as good a start as she could have hoped for. Mara decided she wasn't going to tell him about her meeting with Lafleur.
He probably knows about that too.
But getting one lie out of the way made delivering her bad news a little easier. "While there, I decided to go to the changing chambers," she said.
So, that was the smell I couldn't place. What in blazes for?
Isaiah asked.
That place'll kill you. And your Eve.
Information. We were running around in circles and needed to try something different. To tell you the truth, I wasn't sure what I was looking for until I met a purged archfiend scheduled to go back to Eros, Niel Kyrian. He was halfway through his transformation, racked by torment, but could hear and speak well enough. Seems Eros has been approving many remigrations lately. Kyrian's purging was sentenced for abandoning his post during Inferius in order to possess and murder humans on Earth. No one was better at it, in his own words. The demon's reputation preceded him, and one day, millennia ago, the Nameless, not yet called Joseph, came to him for advice. You're right about what he wants. Even back then he was searching for a grand silencing of life, a way to kill misery. His method was simply different. Isaiah grumbled, as though not wanting to say it out loud.
The ire.
Yes, Mara said. Joseph traveled to Earth many times and possessed human hosts, trying to ignite a vortex of wrath, destroying everything around it, feeding the fire until nothing remained. He searched for the angriest, most destructive specimens he could find, but time and again they were consumed by the wrath. Nealkirian thought the nameless demon was insane and sent him away, feeling he was wasting his time. He didn't even give it much thought, and certainly wasn't worried, assuming no human could ever contain pure wrath within them. I did too, until... She took a quick glance at Alex Barker. Isaiah shook his head.
I know what you're saying, but he will never go down that road. He's a good man. He wouldn't... No.
Good people can still get angry and have their judgment clouded, she said. I know that's the most likely reason you switched Barker and Hunter at the last second, before sending them to be imbued. One look at Bennett Hunter, and I probably would have done the same thing. But don't forget, wrath can take many forms, and no human is immune to anger. You don't have as much experience with modern, high-anxiety humans as I do. Their society is rank with it, and it's getting worse. Joseph may have given up on his quest of summoning the ire when he felt Gehenna, and the brothers were close to being found, but that doesn't mean he's forgotten his original strategy.
What is it you're trying to say, Mara?
Isaiah asked. A warning. I'm afraid of the potential Joseph may see in Alex. The imp will do whatever is necessary to win. We should remain vigilant.
Don't we always?
After discussing the dangers of both Joseph and Alex a few minutes more, and after Isaiah refuted Mara's multiple requests to execute the teacher, he ended the talk by thanking her for the warning, promising to keep it in mind and to keep an especially attentive eye on Mr. Barker.
Just be careful. It's all we can do,
Isaiah said.
And please, take care of Alex and Casey. Starting to get attached to those guys.
I'll keep your humans safe. Don't worry. Mara started away.
Thank you for trusting me with this. Maybe it could be the start of a new friendship,
Isaiah said, bouncing his bushy eyebrows.
What do you think?
Mara could only respond with, maybe. They rejoined the others. The teams were ready. As Mara passed Hannah, she kept her eyes down, but when she felt a firm yet gentle hand on her shoulder, she couldn't ignore it. Glancing up, she locked eyes with the general's brilliant blue irises, instantly filled with peace and the sense that everything would be all right in the end. A feeling she'd not had in 1,000 years. Much of her hated it. I still can't believe you're here. Do we have to do this now? It was nice to see you, Hannah said warmly, free of bullshit. You look nice. Yeah, good lucky. No, good luck. I meant to say good luck, Mara said, wishing the moment would end soon. Take care of the human. We need them both alive. That was awful. Hannah laughed. Will do. You know, if we're ever on the same planet again, look me up. We could grab a moss, or have a fight to the death, or something. Sky's the limit. Mara resisted smiling, and laughing, and all the things she wanted to say, letting silence and a nod be her only reply. Hannah wiped the disappointment from her face to join Isaiah, Felix, and Bennett. Just before they shifted away, Mara caught Hannah's eyes once more. Should I have said something? But it was too late. In a flash, they were gone, and Mara was left with Galinthia, Fabian, Alex, and Casey staring up at her, ready for war. And she felt utterly alone. Touching the Gehenna stone had taken nearly all of her hope, and guilt was filling the vacuum. Nothing I can do about it. Bullshit don't wait for the bucket. Shaking off her nerves, she laid out her plan for the newly formed team. Retrieval jobs were easy, and Mara trusted her Medolian partners, but having Alex along did make her nervous. Something about his behavior during the shipyard meeting had seemed off, and she still couldn't figure out how he could have held onto the Gehenna stone for so long without knowing he'd possessed it. When she'd touched it, her reality had been conquered by an all-encompassing experience. His story didn't add up. Makes me wish I tried harder to kill him in front of the school. Just didn't think Hunter had it in him to save him. Might be more to these two than I thought. Could be troublesome. Everyone ready? The others gathered on her position, and she turned to Casey. You sure you can do this? The small human nodded and spoke confidently. I'll give you as clear a picture as I can. Where are we headed? Alex asked. Casey still seemed unsure if she should answer, but finally replied, America. All hands were placed on Mara's shoulders, and she focused on Casey's emotions, pleasantly surprised by their clarity. Though Mara could not see Casey's thoughts directly, she could read an awful lot of information just by sensing Casey's Eve. Mara soon had enough to zero in on the northern half of the Upper Americas and a dense section of forest. Luckily, or unluckily, a mess of wrath was directly where they were headed, providing a perfect homing beacon.
2 guesses where we need to go.
The smart move would have been to abort the shift then and there. A mass of energy like that could have been anything, and Mara's intel was thin. The desire to hang back and wait was strong, but the increasing direness of the situation proved far more compelling. Get ready, she said, completing the group shift, regretting doing so immediately upon landing. The dark woods around them and the cabin at the center of the clearing in which they stood were quiet. To a human, it would have seemed like a peaceful winter night, perfect for a midnight moonlight stroll. But to Mara and the Medolians, the feeling in the cold air was of palpable hatred and malice. The essence of destruction was everywhere, so stifling she almost choked on it. The signal reminded her of what she'd first sensed upon arriving at the university. Multiple presences in the shadows surrounding the campus she couldn't quite put her finger on. She'd dismissed them mentally once the excitement with Joseph began, only remembering them now, when the energy had reappeared. We shouldn't be here, Galinthia said, drawing multiple knives from her belt. Fabian followed by taking out his phone. The humans, oblivious to the approaching force, began to search the area. Yeah, this is the place, Casey said. Maybe it's inside. But Mara was too busy studying a pile of black ash on the snow near the forest line to pay attention.
No Eve signal whatsoever, and no sign of a fire. What happened here?
Alex sniffed the air. I think I'm starting to sense what you guys are talking about. Joseph might have been here. Casey suddenly shouted, Lee! And charged to the cabin porch, kneeling next to a curled-up shape against the wooden railing. Mara and the others joined in time to hear Casey questioning her friend, tossing her long-sleeved shirt over her shoulders, rubbing her shivering body. What's wrong? Casey asked. Her friend Lee was pale and looked terrified, grabbing at her throat, opening and closing her mouth, but nothing came out. What's wrong? She can't talk. Why can't she talk? Casey screamed. Inside Lee's throat, concentrated on her ruptured vocal cords, Mara sensed speckles of Eve, both Malos and dread. This was a precise attack, the work of a skilled Eve user.
Chloe's been here.
The other 2 Medolians on their team were busy eyeing the trees surrounding the cabin. I've got a really horrible feeling. We need to go, Fabian said, illuminating the tree line with a powerful beam from his phone. Mara turned to Casey. Ask your friend where Joseph went. Are you kidding? She can't talk, Casey shouted. Figure it out, Mara said as calmly as she could. Casey took Lee's face in both hands and breathed with her, struggling to calm her. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. I promise. We're going to figure it out. We will. But we need to end it first. Where did they go? Was the stone here?
Lee nodded, choking back tears.
Did they get it?
She nodded again. From the deep woods came what sounded like the growling of a monstrous wild animal. The single growl then multiplied throughout the trees, like a fleet of human bulldozers rolling toward them. Shadows crisscrossed in the woods. By now, Mara knew exactly what was coming.
And there's a lot of them.
Meanwhile, Casey was struggling to communicate with her friend.
Where are they now?
Lee made a fly away motion.
That's exactly what we should be doing,
Mara said, trying to collect the humans, regretting telling Isaiah she would get them back safe. A deep voice came from behind as she tried to get the humans off the porch.
Sentries!
A swarm of blazing red eyes in the trees surrounded the party.
You guys. Great.
The sea of Archfiend whispered in waves and hissed like barrels of rattlesnakes. The singular voice within then spoke.
You're too late, Medolians.
Good evening, whoever you are,
Mara shouted at the mass.
We are Medolian sentries of the Tribunal, licensed representatives of the peoples of Unearth and the majority party, Highwin. Please state your name, shade, and current affiliation.
The Archfiend hissed in waves. A different, gnarled voice shouted in return.
Your efforts are in vain. The Nameless knows Melu has been taken to Trivium. The brother is being retrieved as we speak.
Mara rolled her eyes and shouted back.
Attention, mysterious Archfiend clan. Each and every one of you is on Earth unauthorized, violating the third tenet of tribunal law. You are all under arrest. Please form a single file line and prepare for shift to Trivium. If you resist, you will be brought down. I do have legal authority to do so.
No one will be going to Trivium,
a third voice said.
The Nameless will succeed in the quest tonight. Upon the sun's rise, the third war begins.
Mara laughed.
How do you think a demon wearing a human shut-in mask is going to get by Isaiah Ezekiel? Huh? Thought you guys were smarter.
Multiple voices in the shadows chanted,
Malos scum! Malos scum!
Mara whispered to her team,
We're getting dirty here.
Gale readied her knives. Alex sparked his fists to life with potent wrath, while Fabian asked with a high-pitched whine,
Can't I just take the humans to safety?
The Archfiend then began pouring out of the trees from all directions, driven into a savage frenzy, blazing eyes wide above elongated jaws filled with teeth, smoke, and boiling acid.
Not this time,
Mara said.
All hands on deck, like Isaiah said.
Launching herself into the air, Mara neared the first of the demons and began to feel deeply unsure of her team's chances.
Normally, I love when they don't come quietly, but we don't have time for this.
A single Archfiend was rarely a problem, usually killed or arrested without incident, but a few dozen could be an issue, especially when she had the safety of 2 human civilians to worry about. Then, there was Isaiah and his team to consider.
Sorry, boss. Gotta leave you hanging a minute.
The current situation needed Mara's full attention. Joseph would have to wait. Drawing her staff from the sheath across her back, she drifted through the air, and with one spin, in a flash of moonlight, embedded it in the skull of an archfiend with burgundy skin. Dark green blood sprayed into the air as the blade came free, and the floating dragon dropped to the ground with a wet thud. By the time Mara landed, she'd brought down 2 more.